It's the show the establishment warned you about.
That's right. It's the Dr. Tommy Show, and we are here to entertain, enlighten, and provide analysis in a entertaining way. And this is me flying solo because Tracy is busy right now doing some labs. We came in today on a Saturday, which is unusual, but figure while we're here, we might as well go ahead and go over some of the news from the week that we found interesting. If you haven't joined us before, feel free to check us out on drtommy.com/podcast, and you can watch us on YouTube, Rumble, and listen to us on any of the podcast platforms, including Spotify and iHeart. So this is something interesting. I wanted to share this because we are a concierge practice here, which means we are providing medical care without outside forces, for instance, insurance companies. Excuse me for swallowing. But so we are a concierge practice. Some people do concierge medicine and skirt the insurance providers. Some of them do direct primary care and skirt the insurance providers that way. But our particular brand is concierge medicine. And what we do is our patients come in and we just deal with them directly. We are not like some other concierge practices which charge insurance in addition to the concierge fee for the patient. So some practices you'll come in and you'll pay your regular copay, you'll pay your regular deductibles, everything else that normally applies. Then you pay a concierge fee on top, and then that fee allows you, quote unquote, greater access to your physician. We don't do that. We do it the way I was interested in doing it when I came up, and is that you come in, you're seen, you have a physical as many times a year as you want to be seen, and then we'll take care of you. We'll text with you, email with you, so forth. And then after that, we take a payment from you directly without insurance company involvement. So why do I bring all that up? Well, because I have this amongst us, some of the stuff I get in email. I'm sure you all get a lot of stuff in email that you probably weren't signed up for. And this is one of those things. But it's from Sermo, which is it's kind of like I told Tracy, it's kind of like a social media for doctors, as far as I can tell. It's where doctors get on, and it's kind of like a virtual doctor's lounge, maybe, where you sit around and talk about things that are of importance to you. And they sent this email to me, and it says, it's from Sermo, and it says, the number of individuals who have a PCP has slowly been dwindling with the pop-up of urgent care centers, a hyper-focus on specialty care, and the fallout of primary care due to the pandemic. But according to the Kaiser Family Foundation, the federal government must aggressively bolster primary care and connect more Americans with a dedicated source of care, the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine warn in a major report that sounds the alarm about an endangered foundation of the U.S. health system. And I just thought it was interesting because, I think overall, this starts off completely on the wrong foot by saying the federal government must aggressively bolster primary care. It's probably because of the federal government that there isn't more primary care than there is now. And why do I say that? Well, if it wasn't for the federal government and Medicare, which is the controlling interest in most all medical payments outside of these large companies like Kaiser and United Healthcare, but Medicare is who makes the world turn as far as payments are concerned, especially among specialty care. Medicare, which is Medicare Part B, which you get when you pay a premium, or Medicare Advantage, which is like Medicare HMOs that people are aware of, like Humana, Medicare, whatever. Anyway, this is saying that the federal government must aggressively bolster primary care. Well, I don't know if people understand how doctors are paid, doctors that are not paid like myself directly. Let's say you're a doctor and you are paid by an insurance company, for instance. And let's say you're a family doctor and you see a patient for 40 minutes or whatever it takes, and then after that you submit a bill. And it has all these different codes on it, and it has a bunch of different things that are specifically made for billing. So that it's not really about the patient so much as did you produce the proper number of codes, the right codes, and submit it correctly. And then after that, there'll be a period of time. There may be some back and forth between you and the insurance company. And then eventually, hopefully, you'll get a payment, which may or may not be enough to cover the cost of your 40-minute visit. So some doctors who work for these giant corporations, for instance, will probably be paid fine because these giant corporations are able to negotiate good rates with insurance companies and get paid. But that is one of the things that drives people like myself to doing what we do, because we don't want to work for a giant corporation. But if you wanted to be on your own, for instance, in doing medical care, family medicine, the chances of you being able to do a primary care practice with the insurance infrastructure in place and be financially successful is pretty close to zero starting now. Now, if you started 10, 15 years ago, which I know people who have, then they built up enough of a patient profile where they can command from the insurance companies better payment. But if you're just Joe or Jane, solo practice MD out there, and you're trying to break into the insurance payment scheme, first of all, that's a very difficult process. It requires credentialing, which is, it's like where you just have to apply for acceptance basically to the insurance companies to allow them to pay you on behalf of patients. So that takes another step. But either way, once you finally get that, if you are a solo provider, the chances of you getting enough money to make your practice successful from that is very, very low. So what I would say that the federal government must aggressively bolster primary care and connect more Americans with a dedicated source of care. Why is that wrong-headed? Well, it's because of the federal government, exactly why we are in the situation we are. The federal government has these reimbursement rules that are established through Medicare, and they're copied by insurance companies that say a family doctor's work is worth this many dollars, and then a radiologist's work is worth this many dollars, and then a cardiologist's work is worth this many dollars. And I don't even remember all the verbiage now because I've been so far from it. But RVUs is one of the terminologies they use. And anyway, these are all just these arbitrary numbers that are, well, not arbitrary. They come to them. These experts come to these numbers, and then they assign them to certain specialties. And depending on what assignment you get depends on how much money you're going to be reimbursed through Medicare and then later through insurance companies, because insurance companies will either usually pay more than Medicare or pay, a percentage of Medicare, but usually it's more than Medicare. It is one thing about Medicare is it is more universally equal as far as payments are concerned than the insurance companies, but it's equally low. Like a lot of times when the government makes things equal, they make them equally low. So the federal government must aggressively bolster primary care. And then so it says, in a recent poll, 91% of global sermo physicians said that primary care is a, quote, essential common good akin to public education. And 87% believe that Medicare and Medicaid should shift money to primary care and away from the medical specialties that have long commanded the biggest fees in the U.S. system. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to get rid of the interference that's between doctors and patients. And then by that measure, you will see a natural increase in the number of primary care doctors or whatever doctors are in need from the standpoint of the public. So 87% believe that Medicare and Medicaid should shift money to primary care. And that's not wrong to think that. It probably is true. My point is it's not going to really help in the long term, because in the long term, the problem is not that Medicare and Medicaid are temporarily not paying enough to primary care. The problem is that Medicare and Medicaid distort the market prices such that there is a shortage of family doctors, because family doctors, if you're in medical school and you want to go to medical school and be a family doctor, you have to come out of that knowing that you're going to be, if you follow the route of the insurance route, you're going to be among the lower paid people that there is in medicine. And some people say, well, I don't care. I mean, money doesn't mean that much to me. But at the end of the day, you want to be paid what you're worth, and you don't want to be paid a fraction of what someone else is paid just because they happen to be in a a specialty that is remunerated better by the powers that be, such as Medicare. 80% said their opinion Medicare is slowly dying, and 81% have seen their primary care spending decrease in their state or region. So when I started medical school, 80% of doctors probably felt that way or less. I think as time goes on, more and more people are becoming of the opinion that medical care, primary care, is slowly dying. But this article to me just brought back to the fact that what we do as a concierge medicine practice, why what we do is different. And why the people who believe that the government is going to be able to step in and then help make things better they're wishful thinking. This is interesting. This is from Breitbart. It says CDC considers increasing time between vaccines to cut risk of heart inflammation. So apparently the CDC has looked at some data among people who have had myocarditis and pericarditis and said, maybe we should space out the shots because of this. This is interesting because usually this is the type of thing that's done in the trial. So these types of things are usually done in the trial. So it would be interesting to know. We're not going to know the initial trial to make the medicine, quote unquote, available from the FDA standpoint, that is. We're not going to know for at least, I believe it's 6 months now from the latest court ruling, when Pfizer has to produce the documents that they have related to how their shot was approved. Initially, Pfizer wanted 75 years, which, if you're doing the math, would mean that most everybody who got the shot today would be dead or close to dead at the time the papers came out talking about what went into getting the shots approved. Anyway, so someone is sued, and now a judge has said, look, it has to be done now, and it has to be done within 6 months, I believe it is. Anyway, so, but like I said, usually that stuff, we don't know how many myocarditis cases there were during or at least I don't. Maybe there's someone out there who does listening. But the point is that if there was myocarditis cases, we didn't hear about it. At least as enough to cause concern to make the dosing of the shot different than it is. And it says, according to the CDC, the proposed changes would apply to the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which use mRNA technology. Under the current guidelines, the 2 Pfizer vaccines are given 3 weeks apart, and the 2 COVID vaccine doses from Moderna are given 4 weeks apart. It says, now reports of an uptick of myocarditis after vaccination, particularly in men ages 18 to 39, prompted researchers to investigate time between shots, vaccine researcher Dr. Nicola Klein explained to the committee on Friday. So this is kind of, I don't know if this is something that, if you had your shot, if they talked about this, but it was something that we covered on a podcast previously, is what is the informed consent that people get when they get a vaccine? And does it include discussion of myocarditis or pericarditis? And if it does, great. But answer me this question as well. What other vaccines have you had in your life where you've had paper given to you that said it may cause you to have heart inflammation? I don't recall any personally, but it'd be interesting to know that. This is from international news from our friends north of the border, Canadians. It says this is from the Blaze. It says Canadian court freezes millions of dollars of donations to Freedom Convoy on Give, Send, Go. So this Freedom Convoy, these truckers who are blocking the roads up in Canada and doing so in protest of the vaccine mandates. Many of the truckers vaccinated, but opposing vaccine mandates placed on other truckers who aren't, and opposing the infringement on their independence in general, have protested and caused a problem in Ottawa, amongst other places. It says brought the city of Ottawa to a standstill. It says, but this Give, Send, Go is a alternative to the other one, which I can't think of right now, GoFundMe. And GoFundMe had $10 million in their accounts for these truckers, associated truckers. And they froze those monies, did not send them to the truckers. And then what they did was they said they were going to send it to other charities that they approved. And this caused an uproar, obviously. And GoFundMe then said, "Okay, never mind. We're not gonna give them the money, but we are going to return the money to the people who gave the money." So that's an improvement of sorts. So some of those people said, "Well, I'm going to take my money that I got refunded from GoFundMe. Instead of sending $100 to the truckers through GoFundMe, I'm going to send it through Give, Send, Go, which is a Christian, as far as I understand, donation platform." But then it says here, the Canadian court froze access of millions of dollars donation intended to support the Freedom Convoy trucker protest on the donation platform Give, Send, Go. The court order was made at the behest of Ontario Premier Doug Ford in an attempt to quash the protest against the lockdown that has brought the city of Ottawa to a standstill. So they're protesting against basically COVID management in general by Justin Trudeau et al. It says the campaign had reportedly raised nearly $8.5 million for the convoy before the accounts were frozen. It's interesting too that the way they talk about this. It says on Wednesday, Ford tweeted that he had met with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau about what he called a, quote, occupation of Ottawa and Windsor. "We will continue working together to support our police forces as they manage these situations. We agreed this must come to an end." This is kind of hilarious because I'm pretty sure Messrs. Justin and Ford, when the Occupy, the CHOP zone and the Summer of Love with the mostly peaceful protest, pretty sure that they would never, ever come on and say that we were going to call this an occupation. And but they're doing that here, and it's interesting because, like I said, we don't usually see this with people calling protesters occupiers, except if it's protesting against government. Then maybe you will see that. This is another thing on Trudeau. This is from the Gateway Pundit. It says, Trudeau holds panicked press conference, blames Americans and consequences to joining convoy to get more severe. So following a night of frantic meetings with cabinet officials to discuss crackdowns on protesters, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau vowed on Friday to do, quote, whatever it takes to shut down the grassroots Freedom Convoy that has gridlocked the country's capital. "Everything is on the table," he claimed during the press briefing, including the eventual use of military force if protesters continue with their blockades. That's wonderful. These guys, they really don't understand that whatever they're doing on their end is not going to make truckers more happy and more inclined to go home, or more inclined to take their haul to whatever waiting warehouse or stores are waiting for it. But they will never know this because they are too insulated in their groups, their bubbles, to think that anyone would have the temerity to question their wisdom as the government rulers. So he's here saying that we're going to use military force on protesters. And I can tell you, if they do something like that, it's only going to make things worse. This is from Trudeau. "The illegal blockades are hurting Canadians. They're endangering jobs. They're a threat to our economy and to public safety. The blockades are hurting small businesses and neighborhoods." Okay, that may all be true. Question is, why are they doing these blockades? Are they doing it because they're mean? Are they doing it because they want more money? Are they doing it because they are racist? Or are they doing it because they're homophobes or transphobes? No, they're doing that basically because they're protesting the fact that they are made to do something that they don't want to do to their own body. So this is something that the people, like I said, who are in power, just never enters their mind that someone would oppose doing things to themselves that the government thinks is good for them. H.L. Mencken said, paraphrasing, that there is no tyrant worse than the tyrant who's doing things for the good of the person, because they are only subjected to their own limitations as far as what they think is necessary. So when someone's ruling over you and doing things for your own good, like that of a parent or a child over a child, they're the worst tyrants, because like Justin Trudeau, who is advocating for forced vaccination and lockdowns, in back the way, which neither one of those has been shown to do anything of statistical significance in reducing the number of COVID cases. You could make an argument, I think, that the vaccine may give you some improvement in your symptoms, and I think that's what the general consensus is, that it does do that, but we don't know for how long. And we also don't know, like we were talking about earlier, what all the side effects are, because it's kind of, you're not allowed to talk about that. But anyway, even so, who is to say that you now must be forced to do that? I can tell you that if Americans exercised 30 minutes a day, preferably weight-bearing exercise, but if they can't do that, seated aerobic exercise if you're older, and if they ate 3 meals a day, and those meals did not have an abundance of carbohydrates or salt or processed ingredients, that those people would live a healthier life. Now, do I take that, therefore, and say, now you must do all these things that I say because it's going to be good for you? No. Can't do that. This is our wonderful president. Can't make this up. This is from the Daily Wire. It says, Biden sent the black community crack pipes. Social media erupts in response to smoking kit, quote, racial equity initiative. Sounds insane, but it's true. It says, on Monday, it was widely reported that President Biden's Department of Health and Human Services were planning to implement a $30 million grant program, which would include handing out safe smoking kits to drug addicts. Applicants for grants are prioritized if they treat a majority of, quote, underserved communities, including African Americans and LGBTQ plus persons, as established under President Joe Biden's executive order on, quote, advancing racial equity, the Washington Free Beacon reported. This is pretty funny because I don't know of anything that could be more racist than doing this. And yet here is Joe Biden, the standard bearer for the Democrat Party, which is if we were to watch the media or listen to the media or listen to what even the establishment says, they are the most racially sensitive party out there. And here he is, Joe Biden and his administration, the people who run Joe Biden, saying that we need to send smoking kits, which had in them apparently crack pipes, to African Americans to advance racial equity. I mean, what does that even, I don't even understand that. But what I think it is that there is a problem in the cabinet, and this is not just the Biden administration, but government in general that are in the establishment. They live in such a bubble that they don't realize that this comes off as racist when they do it. They think it comes off as compassionate, just the same way that they don't think it's racist when they do any number of things that they say that are to treat this or that population or to give them special treatment. So I saw this thing on, I think it was HBO, or maybe it was YouTube. Anyway, maybe it was Netflix. They're all the same, really, as far as their corporate messaging is concerned. But anyway, it was about celebrating Black history. And then it had a show, and the show said it was a series, I believe, and it says it was a true series. It was like a documentary, and it was following this family. I believe it was a family, and they said, and I can't remember exactly, but it said basically the description of the show is this is a comprehensive viewpoint about what it is like to be a Black American. And it says, including intersections with the justice system, sports, and something else. I couldn't remember what it was. But it's interesting to just think that from the viewpoint of these corporate people, these corporate marketers, they think that to be a Black American, among the, I can't remember what the third thing was, but among the two of the three things that you have to be interested in is the criminal justice system and sports. And I don't know. I just don't get it. It says, back to the article, it says critics immediately slam both the policy position and the Snopes rating. So Snopes says it was mostly false because they said they weren't issuing crack pipes. They were issuing safe smoking kits. So Snopes is the fact checker for the left. It used to be considered a reliable source for checking hoaxes, like was there an alligator really in the toilet of someone in New York City that bit them, things like that. But now Snopes, like many social media companies and other companies, has just become an outlet for whatever the left-wing talking point of the day is. And so they say it was mostly false. They weren't distributing crack pipes. And actually, Jen Psaki had a press conference, and she said, no, there was no crack pipes in these smoking kits. I don't know why they're called a smoking kit. There's no crack pipe, but there's no crack pipes in the smoking kits. What they do have, though, is they have alcohol, swabs, and I believe they have needles in there, too. So the safe smoking kit is basically the safe drug kit for targeted to black communities. You know, there's a conspiracy theory, I guess you call it, out there. It says the CIA or the government developed crack cocaine and infiltrated the inner cities of America in order to enslave mostly black people, black and brown people, to crack cocaine. And I used to think that's crazy. That's tinfoil stuff. That's black helicopters. Tell you, the longer it goes on, the less I become surprised about the things that the government is able to do in a way that is destructive to us as a race, human race, and society, and things that are done both intentionally and presumably out of good faith. I don't know. A $30 million grant program. Now, this is better to use these for safe smoking kits than it is to help those people who are addicted to drugs get off of drugs, I guess, in the minds of the Biden Department of Health and Human Service. But that's pretty amazing. This is from Dana Loesch responding. It says, let me understand this. If you give someone a crack pipe that you bought with your own money, that's a crime. But if government gives someone a crack pipe bought with your money, that's okay. That's it for today. You know, we're listening here in the free state of Florida, where we practice in Central Florida, Tampa. And if you're in the area, please come see us if you're interested in having a more one-to-one medical relationship with your medical team, myself and Tracy, which is my wife and the nurse and administrator of the business here at Echelon-Health. So we're here for you if you need us. And thank you for listening. Uh-oh. That's my Tony Soprano ringtone. Anyway, thank you for listening. And if you want to listen further, go to drtommy.com/podcast. And like I said, there's many places you can listen there. And also there's some free links there to some discounts or some special offers for Pure Talk, Atlas MD, and I think Athletic Greens too. So Athletic Greens is a nice little supplement to try. So thank you for joining us. And until next time, bye-bye.